The most famous deal in all of literature? Faust, the scholar who sells his soul to the devil. Except that is not what Goethe wrote. There is no sale in the play at all. Faust is a scholar, the most learned man in Germany, and every book on his shelves has gone dead. One midnight he sits alone in his study with a vial of poison, ready to end it. What stops him is not a thought. It is church bells, ringing for Easter. That is how the story opens, a man so hollow that a sound can save him. Days later, a black poodle follows him home from an evening walk. By the stove it curls up and grows, and turns into a man in scholar's robes. "I am the spirit that denies," the stranger says. His name is Mephistopheles. And the strange part, he cannot leave the room unless Faust lets him. The story tells us something in its very first scene. This devil is not a stranger. What Faust offers him is not his soul. It is a bet. He bets that no moment will ever satisfy him enough to want it to last. If ever I say to the moment, "Stay, you are so fair, then bind me," the bet is lost. The devil agrees at once. Done. And Faust signs the pact with a drop of his own blood. Now watch what the bet does to a man, because this is where the machinery starts to run. First, the devil hands Faust back his youth in a witch's kitchen with a potion. Out on the street, Faust meets Gretchen, a girl, poor, plain, and completely real. He wants her the way a thirsty man wants water, and the devil arranges everything. But the affair destroys her. Her mother is poisoned, her brother killed, her child drowned. Gretchen ends in prison, broken, waiting for the axe. Faust comes to free her. She looks at him and says, "Your face is the face of death." She chooses the axe over the devil. And a voice from above says, "She is saved." Part 1 ends there. The first woman Faust loved is gone, and he walks on. Part 2 opens with Faust waking in a field of fairies, young again, forgiven by nothing. At the emperor's court, the devil invents paper money, and Faust dives into every pleasure. Then the second woman, the most beautiful woman in all of story, Helen of Troy. The devil himself fetches her from the dead, and Faust falls completely. Their son is Euphorion, a boy of pure fire, who leaps too high, falls, and dies. And Helen does what Gretchen could not. She turns to mist and is gone. Two loves, both consumed. The man walks on again. Old and powerful, Faust claims land from the sea and dreams of a free people. He is blind now, and he hears the sound of work, and for one moment he is content. That moment, the one he swore would never come, he wants to keep. "Stay," he says. "You are so fair." He has lost the bet. The devil reaches for him, and the angels carry him off instead, through the rose petals. The last line of the play, "Woman, eternal," beckons us on. Now the reason this episode exists. The founder of modern depth psychology said this play was his own story. Carl Jung wrote it, as the tradition reports it, that Goethe had given him a basic drawing of his own conflicts and solutions. He said the scholar and the devil came together inside him as one person, and that seeing it was his fate. So, what did Jung see in the play? Start with the devil. Plain words first, the parts of yourself you hide, even from yourself. Jung called this the shadow. Faust is one-sided, all mind, all books, all achievement, nothing felt. And a one-sided person grows a shadow. The denied half takes on a life of its own. The shadow does not announce itself as a feeling. It appears as a stranger at the door. Mephistopheles is the shadow with a face. The energy Faust refused, returned as a partner. And the pact is the mistake. Faust does not meet this part of himself. He hires it. Now the second thing. Watch who Faust falls for. Gretchen, then Helen, then the eternal feminine. Jung called the image of the other you carry inside the anima. The tradition reads those three women as the anima growing up. First, the simple girl, consumed. Then the ideal beauty, consumed. Then the eternal, which saves him. The same energy makes the shadow and the image of the other. One process, two faces. And the third thing, when a person starts to feel bigger than life, Jung called it inflation. The potion, the court, the love of Helen. Every time the shadow lends Faust power, Faust swells. He uses the denied energy instead of meeting it. The using is what inflates him. Now the hardest piece. The two halves of a person coming together. Faust and Helen, the scholar and the beautiful, the union that should make something whole. Their son dies, and Helen vanishes. The Jungian tradition calls that the failed union of the halves. That reading is theirs, not Goethe's. And here is where Jung's own life goes past the play. Faust hired his shadow. Jung walked into his own dark, alone. The Red Book is the record of that walk. Faust dramatized the work. Jung did it. The whole reading in one line, the poem was the map, and Jung walked the road. Now the honest science, because the wager is a real psychological trap. Researchers study the arrival fallacy, the belief that getting what you want will finally satisfy you. An hedonic adaptation. People return to their usual level of happiness, no matter what happens. The bet is the arrival fallacy in one line. Faust bets he will never be satisfied enough to stop. The research says he never would be, for long. There is a real mechanism for the devil too, moral disengagement, the way people bend their standards and do harm while still liking themselves. The devil is that mechanism given a voice, the part of the mind that whispers the reasons. And the poison at midnight. Psychologists call it terror management. A lot of striving is a shield against the fear of death. Now the honesty rules, because this series says them out loud in every episode. First, we never diagnose. Faust is a poem, not a patient. Jung is the only real person here, and we report only what he said about himself. Second, the exact words of that basic drawing quote are contested at the margins. What is not in dispute? Jung identified with this play his whole life, and said so over and over. Third, the hardest honesty of this series. Jung found his own conflicts in this poem. And a man who finds his own conflicts in a poem is exactly the reader most likely to find them. This is a lens, not a verdict on the poem or the man. And the poem pushes back. Mephistopheles is not only Faust's shadow. In the prologue, he stands before God and wagers against heaven. The ending is Christian grace. The angels, the Virgin Mary, the mercy that saves a man who lost his bet. The Jungian frame says the striving redeemed him. The play says grace saved him. The two are not the same, and the difference is the point. A legend, too. Jung's family whispered his grandfather was Goethe's own son. Jung called it annoying, then amusing, then his inner reality. No proof ever existed. And a correction. You will hear that Jung ran a seminar on Faust. No such seminar is on record. What is documented is a lifetime of engagement. The autobiography, the lectures, the letters. What survives all of this is the reading itself. A man made a deal with the part of himself he refused to face. Here's the honest ending. The wager was never about damnation. It was about stopping. The moment Faust wants to keep is the one moment he stops striving for himself and hears other people working. He loses the bet, and he is saved anyway. The play says, "He who strives on and lives to strive can earn redemption still." And the man who read his life into the poem did what Faust would not. He faced the dark figure instead of hiring him. This week, notice the part of yourself you argue with instead of listening. The denied half is not the enemy. It is the missing half. That is the honest Faust, a bet against stopping, a shadow made into a partner, and the striving that carries a person home.